This video was brought to you by Nebula. In the last few days, Israel's invasion of Gaza has escalated rapidly. After cutting Gaza in two, severing communications and dropping an unprecedented number of bunker-busting bombs around Gaza City Sunday evening, it now looks like the IDF have finally entered Gaza City itself. While reliable information about what's happening in Gaza is hard to come by, both because Israel frequently cuts off communication in Gaza and because the IDF have been very selective about which journalists are allowed to join them on operations, there have been reports of fighting in the southern suburbs around Zaytun and a push along the coast from Beit Lahia down to the district of Rimal. So in this video, we're going to have a look at what's happened so far, contextualize it by explaining Gaza's urban geography, and look at what might happen next. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. On Sunday, the IDF claimed to have split Gaza in two by occupying territory just north of the Wadi Gaza, which is the de facto evacuation line. In practice, this means that the IDF now have control over both the main roads out of Gaza City, the Salah al-Din road and the Al-Rashid coastal road, and fire control over the 4-kilometre strip in between. This was then followed by yet another communications blackout in Gaza, and then a series of massive airstrikes on Sunday night with what are sometimes known as bunker busters, high-density explosive bombs designed to damage Hamas's tunnel system. As of Tuesday morning, it looks like the IDF are now slowly pushing into Gaza City itself, with reports of skirmishes in the southern outskirts around Al-Zaytun, and a push along the coast near the Shati refugee camp. It's hard to know quite how far this push has gone. Israeli media is currently reporting that forward units have reached Al-Shifa hospital, which Israeli intelligence believes is a dual-use base for Hamas leadership. But we've been unable to verify these reports, and it feels unlikely given quite how dense this part of Gaza is. Anyway, what makes all of this significant is that these are some of the first reports of fighting inside Gaza City itself. Previously, most of the fighting was occurring in the north of Beit Hanun and the west of Beit Lahia, two relatively small towns to the north of Gaza City. So what happens next? Well, no one really knows for sure, but the key thing to understand is that this really is only just the beginning. Sometimes when you hear statements like the IDF have cut Gaza in two or the IDF have entered Gaza City, it can sound like the IDF are making rapid progress or that the demise of Hamas is near. However, once you understand a bit about Gaza's urban geography, you'll realise quite how much there is left to do. Essentially, the IDF operation is focused on two of Gaza's 5 governorates, northern Gaza and Gaza City. In northern Gaza, there are basically 3 main settlements: Beit Lahia in the west, Beit Hanun in the east, and Jabalia in the centre, which is home to the Jabalia refugee camp. While Jabalia's refugee camp used to house over 100,000 people and obviously had a high density, Beit Lahia and Beit Hanun both had pre-war populations below 100,000, and neither were particularly dense. Where each of these settlements end and another begins is difficult to pinpoint. This is essentially because thanks to Gaza's unprecedented fertility rate and the subsequent rapid population growth, Gaza has experienced massive urban sprawl. Essentially, as people build new houses on the outskirts of cities, these cities expand until they start to overlap with neighbouring cities, and the precise boundaries between them start to blur. Urban sprawl in Gaza is something the Israeli military has been worried about for some time now, because it makes combined arms operations significantly more difficult. The former commander of Israel's 1982 Lebanon operation even once claimed that uncontrolled spontaneous urbanization is itself a threat of war. A similar thing has happened with Gaza City, which is basically the only settlement in the Gaza City governorate because it's expanded to swallow up all the other ones. Gaza City had a pre-war population of something like 600,000 and an average density of about 21,000 people per square kilometre, roughly the same as central Paris and 5 times as dense as Beit Hanun. Generally speaking, Gaza City can be divided up into 3 slices, each about 2 kilometres wide and 4 kilometres long, which get progressively more densely populated and therefore difficult for the IDF as you go west towards the coast. The first slice is its eastern suburb, which basically means anything outside the Salah al-Din main road, and comprises the district of Shajaiya. The population density in Sharjah is about 15,000 people per square kilometre, so lower than the Gaza City average, but still about 3 times more densely populated than London. Sharjah is really the only bit of Gaza City that the IDF ground troops have actually fought in recently, namely during the assault of Gaza in 2014, and it didn't go all that well for them. 16 elite Israeli troops were killed, and they only escaped by resorting to massive and dangerous artillery strikes. The second slice is essentially between the Salah al-Din Road and the Al-Jala Road. This area comprises the Old City and the districts of Al-Daraj and Al-Sabra. This slice is significantly more densely populated than the first one, and much of Al-Daraj has a population density above 30,000 people per square kilometre, making it more dense than Manhattan. To make this even more difficult for the IDF, the roads in this slice are a mishmash of winding, narrow streets, which reduces visibility and makes rapid advances significantly more difficult. The third slice runs between the Al-Jala Road and the coast, or the Al-Rashid Coastal Road. This is the most densely populated bit of Gaza City, and mainly comprises the district of Ramal, Al-Nasar, and Sheikh Radwan. Even excluding the Shati refugee camp in the north, parts of Ramal have population densities above 50,000 people per square kilometre, and are literally some of the most densely populated places in the world. While the streets are straighter here, and much of Ramal and Al-Nasser are arranged in an American-style grid, things still won't be easy for the IDF. Not only is it ridiculously dense, but this is also where Gaza's tower blocks are, which will be difficult for the IDF to clear. So far, most of the IDF's operations have been performed outside Gaza City, or in sparsely populated outskirts like Sharjah and Al-Zatoun. This has allowed the IDF to keep casualties relatively low. But the combat conditions in Gaza City itself are qualitatively different, especially in the second and third slices, so expect the tone of the conflict to change in the coming weeks. That's unfortunately all we have time for on YouTube today, but if you enjoyed this video and want to support us in making more of this kind of content, then you should check out Nebula. That's the creator-built and creator-owned streaming service where you can watch all of our videos and podcasts across our channels, totally ad-free. Plus, we post some of our videos on there early, and there's a bunch of exclusive content already there waiting for you on the platform. Now, if that wasn't enticing enough, Nebula is also full of incredible content from other creators you know and love, like Johnny Harris, Real Life Law, and Legal Eagle, as well as lots of cool creators you haven't even discovered yet. And the best thing is that this can all be yours for the price of just $2.50 per month. So check it out by clicking the link in the description, and make sure you use our link so they know you came from us, which will help us produce more content in the future.